Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the Tien Prime Battle Extreme Z Awakening and how you can get it and basically everything else. Now, Extreme Z Awakening Tien is way simpler than it's been in the past for other Prime Battle units. Previously they would have, for example, a whole bunch of requirements. You need to have certain characters to do the Extreme Z area. Now it's just a stage that's added on to the standard Prime Battle event. Obviously, if you're doing this now, during this current campaign, you get a whole bunch of bonus rewards, but these are only temporary. If you are doing this in the future and you do not see these campaign rewards, it's because the campaign has expired. In terms of Tien's Extreme Z Awakening, it's pretty straightforward. Under the Awakening tab, you'll find the Howl Tri-Beam event, which is pretty cool. In the Howl Tri-Beam event, you obviously can earn yourself the Prime Battle Tien, but in terms of missions, you can get yourself some additional Extreme Z Awakening medals by completing certain missions. Stage 1 drops the base copies of Tien. Stage 2 drops the medals to awaken him to TUR. Stage 3 drops the medals to awaken him to an LR. And Stage 4 drops the ZZA medals. Pretty straightforward if you ask me. Now, in terms of everything else, in terms of functionality, everything else about the event is pretty straightforward. I don't think players will struggle with anything else here. Earthlings is the effective category, so using Earthlings characters will net you the character himself. As a bonus, you'll get bonus boost to drop rates. You can also use things like Oolong, Balloon Vegeta GT, etc. The only stage this will not work on is stage number 4, where it's based on the medals you pick up from the map itself. If you want to speed up the process, however, you can also complete the missions that are available. The missions that are available are also pretty straightforward. One mission requires you to use 2 Earthlings, another mission requires you to use some Saiyan Saga units, and then one mission requires you to use a team of Terrifying Conquerors. I'll be completing all of these missions, the first 2, the Saiyan Saga and the Earthlings, I'll be completing using the same team. And then we will have a portion of the video that will showcase to you the Terrifying Conquerors team and how you can beat things with that. Although, again, it should be pretty straightforward and simple. Now, in terms of the actual event itself, it is a fairly straightforward event where you face 3 phases of Tien INT. You'll face his SSR, then his TUR, and then finally his LR. You can use support items and support memories in this stage, but you don't have to if you're using the teams I have chosen. You don't get massive power spikes with them, but obviously, you can use the items if you are struggling or you have a weaker team. Your roster will be limited towards earnable event characters. So your roster is limited basically to the free-to-play characters that you can pick up, more so than anything else. So you're not able to use, for example, summonable Earthlings characters. You have to use the free-to-play characters, which can be a bit of a challenge for some players. Make sure that you farmed up as many free-to-play units as possible, as this will generally help you. Also, certain units are not available for this if they come from the Bubba shop, for example. The Terrifying Conquerors team will rely on Prime Battle Frieza, and for the most part, some Wicked Bloodlines characters like Physical King Cold or Mech Frieza. Physical units are obviously very helpful here because of their high levels of damage. The 2 physical Prime Battles, being Bubbly and Boo, and also being Krillin, who you would have seen me use for the Earthlings team, is obviously 2 great selections for this and help you a ton with the fights that you see here. So that's always something that is super helpful, and I think that a lot of players obviously can take benefit of, at least, I think, in terms of just overall performance. In terms of everything else, generally speaking, for me, I find that there is a pretty solid, albeit, pretty simple roster for both teams. I don't think it's too difficult to be able to look at, trying to repeat a lot of these things. So, I do think like these are pretty good indicators of like the best teams you can probably use for these, kind of functionalities. With that being said, I think for me overall, the biggest challenge with any of these prime battles is just simply the farming of the actual character. The easy A portion is always easy. Remember, if you want to farm Tien yourself, you have to get 10 to 14 copies of him for his hidden potential system and his super attack level. And you get another 10 copies, and you've got to Dokkan Awaken 2 copies of him. And then you've got to obviously Dokkan Awaken those 2 copies again to both be LR. And you've got to feed the one LR into the other to save on Kais. Obviously, you don't have to save on Kais, it's not something that's mandatory, but if you want to not spend 10 Kais or 15 Kais on a free-to-play unit, it's obviously not something I would technically suggest, at least overall. Otherwise, other than the farming of the character, the easy A's are generally way simpler now, especially since they got rid of the list of limited characters that players should use. So I think for me overall there is a pretty good change there. I think players should be pretty happy with how everything at least functions from that point of view. All in all, for me, there's definitely a good easy A here. I think Tien's easy A looks really, really good. I'm very, very happy with his easy A. So I think it'll look great. We'll take a look at it in another video. But you should definitely easy A him for the campaign rewards, obviously right now, but just in general because I think he's a great free-to-play to have. Like I mentioned, you will need to farm 45 medals, so you won't have enough medals after the initial missions are completed. You will still have to probably run the event another 2 to 3 times, depending on how lucky your drops are. If you're lucky, probably another 2 times. If you're unlucky, probably another 3 times after you complete both sets of missions with different teams. Other than that, that covers everything you need to know, so let me know if you need any more help, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care, stay safe, and as always, thank you for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.